They were the handsome, identical twins who sang their way into America's hearts on Hee Haw. For the better part of 2 decades, the Hager twins were a primetime staple, known for their charming smiles and absolutely seamless harmonies. But when the cornfield comedy sets were torn down and the cameras finally stopped rolling, their public story seemed to just end. What most people don't know is that their private lives took a turn away from the spotlight, leading to a quiet and intertwined end that was every bit as dramatic as their rise to fame. This is what really happened to the Hager twins after Hee Haw. If you were watching TV on a Saturday night anytime from the late 60s through the mid-80s, the image is probably burned into your memory. 2 perfectly matched faces, guitars in hand, breaking into an effortless harmony. They were Jim and John Hager, but millions knew them simply as the Hager twins. As original cast members of the cultural phenomenon Hee Haw, they weren't just musicians. They were a symbol of wholesome, all-American charm beamed right into your living room. Their matching outfits, razor-sharp comedic timing, and that special vocal blend only siblings can create made them fan favorites almost overnight. They were the clean-cut counterpoint to the show's barnyard silliness. The handsome hunks producer Sam Lavollo brought in to balance out the Hee Haw honeys. They were a core part of the show's DNA from the very first episode in 1969, staying on for nearly 2 decades as the program became a ratings powerhouse. Their presence was a constant, a comforting and familiar part of a show that defined an era of country entertainment. They picked and grinned, sang gospel tunes with the cast, and delivered corny one-liners with a sincerity that was just disarming. In an age of rock rebellion and social upheaval, the Hager twins offered a glimpse into a simpler, more harmonious world. They were dependable, they were talented, and they were inseparable. That on-screen reality of 2 brothers united in song and spirit was the foundation of their fame. But it also masked a much deeper, more complex story, a bond so profound that it would ultimately define not only how they lived, but how they died. Before they were household names, Jim and John Hager were just 2 boys from the Midwest with a shared dream. Born on August 30th, 1941 in Chicago, Illinois, their story began in a way that could have easily sent them down a different path. The identical twins were put up for adoption at birth. Luckily, they were adopted together by Jack and Frances Hager, a Methodist minister and a schoolteacher. This stable, supportive, and faith-filled home in the Chicago suburb of Park Ridge is where their talents were first forged. With their adoptive father being a minister, their first stage was naturally the church choir. It was there, singing hymns on Sunday mornings, that they began to nurture what Jim would later call a God-given talent. That unique magic of their twin harmony, the way their voices blended with an almost supernatural precision, became obvious pretty early on. As they grew, so did their ambition. By their teens, they had graduated from the church choir to the small screen, becoming regular performers on a local Saturday morning TV show for teens on WGN-TV in Chicago. Even then, their charisma was undeniable. They attended Maine Township High School, graduating in the class of '59, just 1 year ahead of a future movie star, Harrison Ford, and a few years before a future First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton. After high school and a bit of college, their path took a patriotic detour. Both brothers enlisted in the United States Army, serving their country together. But even in uniform, music was never far behind. They became go-to entertainers at officers' and non-commissioned officers' clubs across the United States and in Europe, honing their performance skills. They even served in Vietnam. For the Hager twins, every stage was a chance to perfect their act, tighten their harmonies, and build the easygoing rapport that would later define their careers. When their military service ended, the brothers set their sights on the epicenter of the entertainment world, California. Armed with their guitars and an unshakable belief in their shared destiny, they moved to Los Angeles. It was a bold move, but their talent quickly found an audience. They became regular performers at Ledbetter's nightclub, a legendary hotspot, owned by Randy Sparks that was a launching pad for an incredible number of future stars. On any given night, the Hagers might have shared the bill with acts like the Carpenters, John Denver, Steve Martin, and Kenny Rogers. They were in the right place at the right time. Still, they needed that one big break, and it came, as it so often does in Hollywood, in the most magical of places. The brothers took a job performing at Disneyland, where their clean-cut looks and harmonious sound were a perfect fit. It was there they were spotted by the one man who could change their lives forever, the titan of the Bakersfield sound, Buck Owens. Owens was at the height of his fame and saw something special in the twins. He was so impressed that he signed them to a management, booking, and recording contract almost immediately. The dream they had nurtured since their days in the church choir was finally coming true. Under the powerful wing of Buck Owens, the Hager twins were fast-tracked into the country music machine. They became the opening act for Owens himself and a who's who of country royalty, including Tex Ritter, Wynn Stewart, and Lefty Frizzle. This was their masterclass in performance. At the same time, Owens signed them to Capitol Records, and in 1969, they released their first single, Gotta Get to Oklahoma, 'Cause California's Getting to Me. It climbed the country charts, cementing their status as legit recording artists. But records were only one part of Buck Owens's grand plan. In 1969, he was co-hosting a new TV show, a country-themed variety hour modeled on the fast-paced sketch comedy format of Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. The show was called Hee Haw. It needed talented musicians and, as producer Sam Lavollo noted, some good-looking hunks to be the male equivalent of the show's beautiful Hee Haw honeys. The Hager twins, with their identical good looks and direct connection to Owens, were a natural fit. They were hired as original cast members and appeared in the very first episode. For the next 17 years, until they left the show around 1985, Cornfield County was their home. Hee Haw was an instant, if unlikely, smash hit. Critics were often cruel, dismissing its humor as unsophisticated and cornball, a label Jim Hager himself didn't deny. In a 1988 interview, he admitted, "The writers count on the person delivering the line to pull it off." It was cornball, no denying it. But what critics missed, the cast understood perfectly. The show's appeal was its heart. People laughed at themselves, Jim explained. Initially hired to sing, Jim and John quickly became much more. They performed their own songs, joined in on gospel numbers, and provided gorgeous harmonies for guest stars. Their vocal style, often compared to the Everly Brothers, was a polished blend of country and folk. But soon enough, they were integrated into the comedy sketches, becoming just as known for their deadpan delivery in the Hee Haw joke fence segments as for their singing. Their identical appearance was a running gag, and they played their twin. Status to the hilt. Their fame exploded. They were television stars. This new celebrity opened doors, leading to a 1976 made-for-TV movie called Twin Detectives and guest spots on shows like The Bionic Woman. They co-hosted Country Kitchen on the Nashville Network with Florence Henderson, and in a move that solidified their heartthrob status, the handsome twins even appeared in the pages of Playgirl magazine in 1973. Through it all, friends and colleagues remembered them not for their fame, but for their kindness. On screen, they were the picture of unity. Off screen, that bond was just as real. They were inseparable. By the mid-1980s, the cultural tide was turning. The variety show format was feeling a bit dated, and Hee Haw was no exception. Around 1985, after an incredible 17-year run, the Hager twins' time on the show came to an end. It wasn't a dramatic exit. It was simply the quiet closing of a major chapter. Unlike many of their co-stars who chased the next big thing, the Hagers chose a different path. Pursuing solo careers? The idea just seemed wrong. Their entire identity was as a duo. So instead of seeking a new kind of fame, they just kept doing what they'd always done: make music together. They stepped away from the glare of national television and into the softer glow of live performance. Their post-Hee Haw years were defined by a steady rhythm of touring state fairs, casinos, and smaller music venues. For them, every show was a homecoming. As John once said, "Everywhere we perform is like coming home." They weren't reaching millions every week anymore, but they were connecting with their dedicated fans in a much more intimate way. Their act was a polished blend of music and comedy, and their ad-libbed humor was as quick as ever, with their twin speak often leaving audiences laughing as they finished each other's sentences. They continued to record, releasing about 6 or 7 albums throughout their career on various labels. While they never had the massive record sales of a Buck Owens, their music was consistently well-crafted. A recent retrospective of their Capitol albums noted that the songs weren't nearly as country hokey as you might expect, praising their pristine musicianship and heartfelt approach. Some have suggested their clean-cut, collegiate image might have held them back from being fully embraced by the more rugged side of country music, but their talent was undeniable. Their lives had become quieter, more private, but their partnership remained the central organizing principle of their world. They were still Jim and John, the Hager twins, brothers in song and in life. For two men who spent nearly 2 decades in the public eye, the Hager twins managed to keep their personal lives remarkably private. On Hee Haw, they had the image of being the charming, eligible bachelors of Cornfield County. That persona, plus their 1973 Playgirl spread, led to a widespread and lasting misconception that the twins were lifelong bachelors who never had families. For years, that was the accepted story, but it wasn't the truth. In reality, both Jim and John Hager were married. Jim Hager was married to a woman named Betty Hager Rivera. John Hager was married to Catherine Akersloot Hager Hayward. John also built a family. He had 2 daughters, Jessica and Mandy, and later became a proud grandfather to 3 granddaughters, Naomi, Aria, and Shayla. These details paint a very different picture of the twins. They weren't just entertainers, they were husbands and fathers, balancing a public career with private responsibilities. Their decision to keep this part of their lives out of the spotlight says a lot about their character. In an industry often defined by oversharing, the Hagers chose to build a wall between their public personas and their private lives. They lived quietly, often together, maintaining the close bond that had defined them since birth. This privacy also meant that any personal struggles they faced happened far from the public gaze. The entertainment industry is a tough world of incredible highs and crushing lows. One documentary has alluded to quiet struggles with the pressures of the industry, but verifiable details are scarce, largely because the brothers were so intensely private. What's clear is that their lives were not the simple, sunny story seen on TV. They were real people dealing with marriage, kids, and trying to find happiness. And the fact they were identical twins added another layer. Sam Lavullo, who knew them for decades, described them as having one personality, as if they were a single person. This incredible bond was their greatest professional strength and perhaps their deepest personal vulnerability. The new millennium found the Hager twins settled into a comfortable life in Nashville. They were still making music, performing for fans, and living with the quiet dignity that had become their hallmark. They were still, for all intents and purposes, a single unit. But the final chapter of their story would be marked by a sudden, heartbreaking separation, followed by a tragic reunion in death that revealed the profound depth of their connection. On May 1st, 2008, the unthinkable happened. Jim Hager, 66 years old, was in the parking lot of a Nashville coffee shop when he suddenly collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. He had died of a massive and unexpected heart attack. The news sent a shockwave through the country music community and among the millions of fans who remembered him so fondly from Hee Haw. The loss was devastating for everyone who knew him. But for his identical twin, John, it was an existential blow. For 66 years, they had been a pair. They came into the world together, were adopted together, served in the army together, and built a career side by side. Now, for the first time in his life, John Hager was alone. The effect of Jim's death on John was immediate and profound. Friends reported that he was consumed by grief and fell into a deep depression. The man, known for his quick wit, became withdrawn and inconsolable. He reportedly couldn't even sleep in the home they had shared. The guitars they played sat untouched. Their matching stage costumes hung in the closet. The laughter was gone. Years. Earlier, John had joked that the hardest part of being a twin was, you never know who you'd be without the other guy. After Jim's death, he was forced to find out, and it was a reality he couldn't survive. He had lost his brother, his mirror, his other half. The psychological toll was immense. His health began to decline rapidly. The light that had animated him, the spark he shared with Jim, seemed to have gone out. Just 8 months after Jim's passing on January 9, 2009, John Hager was found dead in his Nashville apartment. He was 67 years old and had died peacefully in his sleep. No single acute cause was given, other than his poor health and the deep depression that had taken hold. But to those who knew them best, the cause was clear. Friends, family, and producer Sam Lavolo all said the same thing. John had died of a broken heart. The story of the Hager twins is more than just a footnote in TV history. It's a timeless story about brotherhood, identity, and the profound, almost mysterious connection between identical twins. As entertainers, Jim and John Hager left their mark on a generation. For nearly 2 decades on Hee Haw, they were ambassadors of a certain kind of country charm, wholesome, funny, and unfailingly sincere. Their harmonies were flawless, and their comedy was a perfect fit for the show's corn-pone humor. In an industry known for big egos, the Hagers were known for their kindness, professionalism, and dedication to their craft and to each other. Beyond the laughter and music, however, lies their more enduring legacy. Their story is a powerful exploration of the twin bond. From their shared childhood to their synchronized careers and their tragically linked deaths, their lives were a testament to a connection most of us can only marvel at. The final 8 months of John Hager's life is a heartbreaking illustration of this bond's power. His rapid decline after Jim's death speaks to a grief so deep it became physical. Their story challenges our understanding of individuality, suggesting that for some, identity isn't a singular concept but a shared one. The Hager twins represented an ideal. The all-American boys with perfect smiles and even more perfect harmonies. They made millions of people laugh, and their music brought joy to countless fans. But their true story, the one that unfolded after the camera stopped rolling, is one of an unbreakable bond that defined their lives and their deaths. They were brothers in song, in life, and in heart. And while their fame may have faded from prime time, the poignant tale of their inseparable journey ensures that the Hager twins will not be forgotten. If you remember the Hager twins and the joy they brought to screens every week, please give this video a like to help keep their memory alive. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the lives of classic country legends. Let us know in the comments below what your favorite Hee Haw memory of the Hager twins is. Thanks for watching.